While we're waiting on the idler gear for the gear drive, we can put together some rocker arms and put them on the heads and shim the rocker arms over the stems. You know, they're usually a little off here and there. I've been hoarding these Keith Black parts for I don't even know how long, but I guess the time has come to use them. I mean, this is what they're for, and we're trying to use all the Keith Black parts we can. This is the last set of rocker shafts I've got, and the last set of plugs for the shafts, and the next to the last pair of rocker stands that I've got. These Keith Black shafts are the best, and I'll show you why in a minute. But I guess the time has come for them. This will give us, that way we'll have the rockers and the heads ready to go. Okay, I cleaned up the shafts in the Varsol tank. Just take a nylon brush and brush through there and get them. There's a little manufacturing residue, but KB never said to not clean anything up before you put it together, so that's fine. The reason his shafts are the best is they're hard chromed and then ground to size. And the plugs that they use in the end, see, it's just a hollow shaft. So when you tear the engine down, you can take that plug out and brush it and get it clean before you put it back together. Whereas if you've got stock shafts with that plug at the end, a freeze plug, and you don't get that with any rebuild kit or anything, I don't think anybody really knows what size they are, and they might even be peened in, but nobody does that. But when you got the KB shafts, these little plugs that you're going to put in the end, that just fits in there and got the O-ring. Of course, then it can't blow out. And I've never heard of anybody blowing out one of those plugs, but you know, we do have, some people do have 100 pounds of pressure, you know, oil pressure, so there's pressure in there, but you want your stuff clean on the inside, and the KBs let you do that. Okay, if you've got a head, it kind of helps you know how to put them together. There's a lot of safeguards on here. You can't put the wrong stand in the wrong place or the whole assembly won't go together. There is ways you could do things wrong and not know it. You could have, but if you've got a head, it just kind of makes it foolproof. These two center oil, these two don't oil. They look the same other than that. And this one's kind of unique to itself. You know, it goes on the end of there. Fit that side. So you just get a stand that doesn't oil. The oil on these, there's a hole that goes up to supply the rockers with oil. So two of them are going to have oil, two of them aren't. The ones that have oil, you will see them because they will have oil holes in there. And then, besides, you need to, you know, you want to brush them out just to make sure that they were drilled. You know, things can happen, you know, things get, but just make sure they're drilled through, make sure they're clean. You can't hardly see through there, but when you stick this in there, if there's any dirt, it'll come out. But that's how you got to clean those out anyway. That's an oil passage, right? And you brush those out, right? Okay, so we need one that doesn't oil because we're going to start at 1. And the one reason you can't swap these is if you try to put one on, the dowel pins are in different spaces. See how this one's further down, and you'll see how this is further down. So they won't go in the wrong place. If you put it on there, it'll physically fit, but then you look in the hole and the head bolt's not in the right location. So to get started, you just start on one end. Okay, now the shafts. The intake is going to be on the left, the exhaust is going to be on the right. So that means you got to take your intake shaft, and the intake's going to go on the right. The banana goes down. So this is your intake. The exhaust shaft is actually a little longer. But this is the intake shaft, and your intake's going to be on the left, exhaust's on the right. So you just start sliding it together. Actually, it would have been a little better if I would have just put this plug in there now instead of oil up that O-ring. It'd help it slide in there. This way I can see the hole. Line up the hole with your plug, and then a bolt. The intake's on the left. We're good there. The exhaust is going to be on the right. So, the exhaust is on the right, banana down. Stick a plug in it. Beautiful chrome too. Okay, so we got a little steel shim that goes between the rocker and the stand, just to keep the rocker from wearing down the aluminum. So we know that the intake is on the left, so this side is going to take one shim. And then I'll oil up a little as I go. All these are oiled anyway. Now the exhaust, you put the spring on first because the rocker arm is going to be on the right. The banana is down. Now this is going to be an oiling stand. So we look in there, we see the oil holes, we know we got an oiling stand. Spring for the right. And then a exhaust rocker. And then a shim to keep the exhaust rocker from wearing on the stand. And then the oiling stand, the dog leg goes that direction. And then stick the bolts in. And then just do it again. Shim for the intake. Intake rocker. Spring. Spring for the exhaust rocker. Exhaust rocker. And a shim. We got our shim there, our shim there. Now we need a non-oiling stand. So that's this one. our shim. Got our shim. We're doing good. No mistakes so far. Okay, so now we need a shim up against this stand. Intake rocker. Spring. Spring for the exhaust. Exhaust rocker. And a shim. Now this has to be the last stand. It has to be oiling because it's the only one left. Got the shims. We're all good. I already put this plug in, so I guess I need to put the last one in here. Now with shim for intake. And then a spring for the exhaust. Exhaust rocker. Intake rocker. And this is one short spring because you don't have much room on this one. Both plugs are in. And that's all there is to it. And then if you want, you can set them on the head and make sure that you haven't messed anything up. There we go. So, we got it done. These are the Stage 5 replacement heads that I had Stage 5 make for me many years ago. And then last year, and they're drilled for Keith Black water jackets, you know. And then I took them to Ray Barton last year and he ported them for me. They're really, really beautiful. So that's what we're going to use for heads. And now what we're supposed to be doing is checking the center of the wheel on the center of the valve stem. And then you're supposed to get a map and you're supposed to draw out where each shim goes, because when you take this thing apart, you know, you got to know where you're supposed to put the shims. So you put one here, two here, or one here, whatever, and you draw this map out and everything. Well, that all sounded real good, except everything was perfect. Now what am I supposed to do? I got nothing to write down on a piece of paper, you know what I mean? It's nice using the good stuff, you know, it's just nice.